All right, so I just wanted to do a quick book review on Gabrielle Dixon's Forget Your Troubles, Just Dance. So I've read it 2 days ago, and I think it's a wonderful book. So I'm just gonna talk about some things that I liked and some things that I didn't like. So first and foremost, it's a Cinderella story, kind of, sort of. It's a Cinderella story because doll fans, we love the dolls. I remember the first time I saw the dolls, Gina Job in '96 at the Georgia Dome. And I was supposed to be looking at some other things, but I guess I ended up looking at the dolls, and I don't know what that says about me. But that from that point on, I was a fan, and there are so many fans of the Fabulous Dancing Dolls that have been following them for years, since the '90s or early, late '80s maybe, and then you have your kind of current generation that's just come along, but nevertheless, we're fans of dolls, and people are always looking for inside knowledge and whatnot. But this is definitely a Cinderella story because we all remember seeing maybe Gabby for the first time, and as she moved through the organization. I still remember seeing her at Charlotte in 2016, which she did mention in the book, and kind of being unimpressed, looking at her like, who is this short girl over here, and not really feeling it too much. And then she grew from there. And I remember when she became captain in 2018, and being kind of unimpressed again, and that walked out there in that gold Beyonce and did all that kind of unimpressive dancing at that game. But I mean, at the end, she showed us. So it's good to kind of get that backstory to what she was going through at that time. And I think everyone loves a good come up type of story. And she told it well, regardless of what people may say. Also, another thing that I thought she did well in writing the book, she did not lead you towards any conclusions about certain things that she was talking about. While people may think that she did, she actually didn't. So like, one of the common critiques that I'm kind of seeing amongst the band community, or just people who are reading it in general, is that it's biased. It's biased, it's one-sided, it's biased. Well, newsflash, everything is biased, except your news media, and even that's biased. So anytime anyone tells a story, it's going to be biased. So the video you're watching right now from me and me giving this review, it's biased. If her captain writes a book, it's going to be biased. If her roommate writes a book, it's going to be biased. She can't write a story in third person, because that would be dumb, and it would be, nobody want to read it, and it'd just be stupid to do. So any story that anyone tells is going to be biased, it's going to be from their point of view. But she did not necessarily lead us to any type of conclusions about some of the things that she was saying. She was simply recounting events and leaving the reader to decide for themselves, and that's just what people should do anyway. But she would tell us things, or she would restate and recount events, and then you decide how you feel about it. Example, she may tell you about a particular confrontation she had with her captain, and what the captain said and what she said in response. And when you read it, you're either going to say, oh my gosh, I can't believe that happened. Or you're going to say, oh my gosh, I totally see why she had a hard time. Or you're going to say, oh my gosh, that's exactly what I would have said too. But she does not come away saying, and this was awful, and I feel the organization should not be like this, and I feel you should not be treating people like that. She didn't say that. She was simply telling what happened. She said what this person said, what happened to her, what she did in response, and that was it. And you could not really, she did a good job at kind of character arcs in some ways. I think you did not know necessarily where her relationships were going to go with the men in the book, clearly, but even with the people who kind of ended up being antagonists, there were several times I was reading and thinking, there's no way that she and her captain are going to come out of this well, and then boom, 2017, like, they're amazing, they're friends, and I was just, just really didn't think that was going to happen. And then you think it's going well, and then it ends, or it gets worse. I mean, with her roommate and other people on the team, you just never would have known. So she did a really good job at that. And then, of course, one of the main themes that I think it did, it opened the door for talking about this toxic band culture that we have. And whether people want to accept it as that or not, it is, and it just keeps coming up. I wouldn't say she opened the door, because it's something it's the door that keeps being opened, like what, every 2, 3, 4 years? And it's really highlighting a common theme there. And the problem is always leadership from the top down, and that's just a theme you see in all programs. It's these overzealous, big-headed, egotistical band directors. It's these sponsors who can't get out of their past lives, who look over things and like to sit in drama with their team members. And that's just something that is going on in so many programs. And it just so happens other people haven't written books about it, but it's going on and it hasn't stopped. And it's deaths have not stopped it. And of course, these little suspensions don't stop it. But that's just definitely something that has to be talked about. What type of culture are you breeding within your program? And I'm not against a process. I mean, if you go to an HBCU or graduated from one, there's a process for everything. You gotta cross your cafeteria, you gotta cross your dormitory, your gospel choir has a process, your cheerleaders have a process, your math club has a process. I mean, you gotta cross everything. But there's a way to do it, and I think it's very clear what folks know how to do that correctly with dignity and what folks don't. And that just has to be discussed within these programs. Look at who you're calling to lead. How much oversight are you giving? Because we know very clearly, and just for the fact of the matter, I was gonna try to keep names out of it, but we all know what we're talking about. It's very clear who does and who does not know how to do that. Case in point, Kayla Pittman. We know she had her crafts go through 2 processes. It has not been written on paper and they haven't said it, but we all know that it happened. But there's just a way that you do it, and it will speak for itself. So the fact that people who have not crabbed under you can speak highly of you after you've gone, and that people who crabbed before you can speak positively about you and you weren't even in the organization yet, that speaks volumes. And when you are negative or don't do that correctly, you don't have to say anything, and we didn't really even need a book. It's gonna speak for itself. And we know that Kayla Pittman was a good leader, not because she's been out here saying it or she's written any books about it. It speaks for itself. She hasn't had to say it. Other people will say it for you. And then when you're not that, well, then you're gonna reap what you sow. And people may be upset about it. And I just wish they would have kept their dirty laundry in-house. You wash your clothes correctly, we wouldn't be smelling your dirty drawers all the way from Baton Rouge. And that's just how that goes. And you can't be, if people have a brain and if people have a mouth, if you treat them wrong, they have the right to speak about it in whatever capacity they want to, because everybody's wrong. So if you got a brain and a mouth, you can go and say whatever it is you want to say. And why is it that people, when you act nasty, rude, and just in a way that you should not behave, this, why is it that you think that nothing will ever come of that? I don't understand. Our ancestors been saying that for years. God don't like ugly, and you reap what you sow, all those things. This is gonna come back. And the capacity in which it comes back, I don't know, but you can't be mad about it once it does. And that's just something that you will have to own. So you're either gonna read it and be quiet, read it and be mad, read it and go fight her. I don't know what it's gonna be, but it's always gonna come back around. And that's just something that will happen. Things that I did not like, I guess this may be a little bit of contrast, but I do feel that her captain was a little bit over villainized in certain parts. Like I said, it's her prerogative, it's her book, and she gets to say whatever she wants to say. But I do feel like certain things, if the theme was forget your troubles and dance, anything that she said about her crabbing process and anything that was a trouble, she has, liberty to talk about it. But there were some things afterwards that I don't think should have kept being kind of dragged back in. I think after her crab year and after her 2017 year, I don't really think the animosity between her and her captain needed to continue to be created. I don't think, there was a point where she was captain and the old captain came and, she's on the side and she's not filming me. I don't think she really studied me like that at that point. To still be putting in drama on that character at that point in her life story. I don't think it was. But then again, I'm not her. Maybe that was a trouble, or maybe she was saying it to talk about how it was still affecting her mentally. I can't say, but I don't think that was entirely necessary. I also wish, they had their process, but I wish some things that maybe were not negative or things that did not provide trouble for her maybe could have still been a little bit secretive, to not maybe put that out there for people who are coming behind her. I think that could have been addressed. Also, personally, I would have liked a little bit more fluff. She did give us fluff with like her outside relationships, but maybe any academic things, other troubles, because forget your troubles, just dance. Maybe some other troubles could have been mentioned. I don't really think too much was mentioned except what was going on that thing. But if that was the subject, that was the focus, I can't really complain about that. But I think that would have made it a little bit more, given it a little bit more substance in certain places. But other than that, I think it was an outstanding book. I congratulate her. We know this was not an easy task. I mean, she's not a dumb girl. She knew that this was going to be backlash. So she didn't come out of this like, oh, and everyone's going to love it. My organization's going to love this. Obviously, that's not what she thought. As soon as she put the pen on the paper, she was aware of those consequences. As far as the organization goes, it does not mar their image in my eyes one bit. And it does not really tarnish the image of some of the people talked about in the book. Like Gabby just said in a recent interview, I mean, you can't take away her legacy, and you can't take away the doll's legacy, and you can't really remove like her captain's legacy either. I mean, I look at the videos, you're a great dancer, great presence, but you take it for what it is. If you were that type of person, you have to stand in it and own it, because it's gonna come back to you. I don't think it's going to affect your life in any way unless you want it to. Same with some of the other people she talked about, but it's not that big of a deal. It's just college, you have a whole lot of life to live, and this is just one part, and you can either look at it and grow from it or wallow in it and make excuses and deny and all of that. And I think some of it, I've heard of a little bit of backlash lately. I would really hope that the organization watches that, because trying to remove someone from a little page or what things like that, to me, that just comes across as confirmation of certain ideals and behavior, when it should really be leave it alone. Because when you do things like that, it looks like you're bothered and pressed. And people like to say, oh, I'm not bothered and pressed, and ain't nobody reading. But then you're acting like that. It's like you are bothered and pressed. So your best way is to just move forward and really think about how you're going to improve the character of the organization, and just all organizations. Think about it, because people don't like that organization or that team because of what the crabs are going through. So is it really all that worth it, being that mean and that nasty to someone? And think about all of the talent that was lost along the way over however many years. Going back to the 2000s, and people who I knew personally who were on the team, and people from my school in Decatur, and just think about all of the girls who were extremely talented, who were either removed or had to stop, even in the book, that if you had just maybe thought about the way that you are treating people, and is it worth it? Because we don't like the organization because of that. That's not something that everyone knows. We don't go and see the crabs in the stands. Ooh, she looked like she really took a tongue lash in the day like this. No, we like because of the performance and because of the pizzazz. And so try to continue to pick people to be in leadership that will not have the ability to tarnish that, because it's not worth it. For what? For what, really? And like I said, if you are that way, it's gonna come back to you. It's gonna come back to you, and it starts with the leadership. If you don't want certain things to happen, they won't happen. If you think about all the things that band directors across all sorts of programs have the ability to stop, that don't even matter. They can stop it in this instance, stop it in that instance, all of the things that the sponsors can yank from the stands and say we're not doing this. But they can stop other things too, they just don't want to. Because half the time you look into it, who they are the same person times 20, and that's probably the big reason. If you want to stop this thing from happening, you have the power to do it. But most people, they don't want it to stop. That's really it. They might lie and have their little workshops and their little rules and their little conferences and tell somebody about what we're not gonna do. It's not real. It's just, I don't wanna get caught and I don't want any personal repercussions, but they don't really care. So it really starts there, like the leadership has to get it together. In all of the programs that have things like that going on, it's the leadership. Because if you don't want something to happen, if you don't want an image to be tarnished, you have the ability to stop it. You just need, do you want to or not? Because we know you have the ability. And I think it really broadcasted that, and it needed to be broadcasted. It's been broadcasted. I mean, we don't have people die. We don't have so many suspensions. Just think about it and think about what it is, what it's worth. Because if your founders came back, I mean, I think about that even in some organizations I'm a part of, your founders came back and looked, the original dolls came back and looked, and Gracie Perkins came back and looked and read. That's not anything that they were talking about. And they would be like, what are y'all doing that for? Why are you saying that to her? What are y'all doing that for? Discipline and all of that jazz, but there's a way to do it. And I think people will be more conscious of that from now. And they have this book to thank. I think they do. And so I congratulate her. I think it was wonderful. And if she's having a tough time, I support you. It don't matter. I'm nobody, but I support you. I thought it was a wonderful book, and you're an outstanding young lady, and I wish you all the best. And I wish the Dancing Dolls all the best, because they're still amazing, and they still are fabulous, and they're going to continue to be that. But just be mindful. Just be mindful, because things come back. I mean, we say we're gonna treat everybody right, regardless. We go to church and say that, but then we don't really do it. But I guess that's everybody all the time. But anyway, that was my review. So that's that.